He might have gone to take a nap. If he's gone, I'm sure they'll tell me. He won't, he's probably saying he won't be missed, will he, is what he's saying. Howard Sherman and Taso Stavrakis on the stage from Day of the Dead. The greatest 80 movies of all time. I do love this film very much. I just love it. Right, let's shut that up. Although I do like it. You watch, Tom will walk in now and I want the music in the back, but you can make the atmosphere when he walks in. I absolutely love this movie, and I make no secret of it. And it was my generation's Day of the Dead movie, my generation's Romero movie. You can tell I'm tired, can't you? And God, I can't believe this. This is great. See so many people for Day of the Dead. It's great. Tony will be running around the crowd later on just to sort of get some questions from you guys for the guests. So if you can help us out with that, that'd be great, because I'd like to, because I've asked about a million questions about this film, but I always find something about this film. Every time I watch it, there's always something that comes out of it, and I think, oh yeah, I must remember to try and ask that question. One of my favourite questions I like to ask, and I have asked Howard this one before, but I know there's some new people in the crowd that haven't seen a panel like this before, is the process of becoming Bub. Because you explained to me that you were separated from the rest of the cast, so that you, whether that was done on purpose, which I think it probably was, you were sort of not kept with the rest of the cast until you came to going on stage. Have I got that completely wrong?
No, I think that was some other zombie. I think that was some other zombie. I mean, if they did that, nobody told me about it. It seemed to me, we all stayed at the same holiday.
What do you want to know?
We had the music going and everything. It was great. Right, welcome on stage, Mr. Tom Savini.
Standing room only.
It's standing room only. I do love this film very, very much. So we were asking Howard.
What film are we talking about?
Day of the Dead. I don't know what day it is, but it is Day of the Dead. Becoming Bob Howard obviously was a process that would look quite painful from some of the video footage we've seen about the beard, the makeup being taken off. And I remember you talking about some allergic reaction to some of the makeup.
Oh, what a pansy. Come on.
Howard, can you talk a little bit about that process?
Well, the makeup, the foundation of it consists of a mask made out of foam latex that was sculpted originally in modeling clay to a positive mask, a life mask of my own face, so that the foam latex version of it exactly fit my face, and they adhere it with surgical adhesive. And the only thing that dissolves surgical adhesive is a very high concentration of alcohol. And after, generally speaking, 2 or 3 days running, I would start developing these large red painful patches on my skin, because it just takes lots and lots and lots of rubbing and scouring to get that stuff off your face. So that was really the only part of the process that I didn't enjoy. It didn't bother me putting it on. I just lean back and listen to my Walkman, and two guys would be doing stuff to my face, and I'd just be, listening. Yeah, remember Walkmans?
Marcus thought George kept Howard separate on purpose.
What? I've never heard.
I never heard that either.
I didn't hear that.
No, I wasn't. We all stayed at the same Holiday Inn.
I had this feeling when you stayed at my house. I thought maybe you were drunk, maybe I was drunk, maybe we were both drunk. But I remember you saying that there was an element of you hadn't had much interaction with the actors.
Well, that was simply because of the schedule. And they had already started before I came on the set. It wasn't any diabolical plan. When they started shooting my scenes, they'd already been in progress for at least a couple of weeks, I think.
And I got to tell you, if you think of zombie movies, there's a few zombie performances that stand out. David Emge as the zombie, and him in Day of the Dead, David Emge in Dawn of the Dead, and your performance is singled out as, you know, one of the top zombie performances.
Everyone I talk to mentions that, the screeching, the stretching of the vocal.
I never noticed it. Somebody had to tell me, and then I rewatched it and you heard your voice go up
It's a visceral
as your
experience.
vocal cords stretched.
Right.
I mean, the special effects hold up so, considering this is a 1985 film, when you watch it today, it holds up so well. I was very, very lucky to go to Tom's house, and the Saturn Award that he won for Day of the Dead is there. I got to hold it, got a picture done of it. So, I mean, we
got
just
to hold
applauded
what?
your award that you got for Day of the
Yeah,
Dead.
yeah.
Round of applause for Tom's special effects on Day of the Dead.
That is not, there's no CGI. This was a
It happened
magic,
right in front of
a
you.
magic trick that was just as good standing there watching it happen as you see on the film. It took us hours to set up. And then when it happened, it really was magic.
Well, your head was bent back
Right.
for like 3 hours.
3 hours.
The blood going
Upside
into
down,
his
and all
face,
the blood
you know.
went up my nose.
That wasn't as bad as your intestines being ripped out on Dawn of the Dead. Those were real pig intestines. And he insisted on going into the bathroom and washing them under hot water before we let them touch him underneath the fake chest.
Some of you may not realise how many times Taso's been as, I mean, Dawn of the Dead, somebody's counted it up. I haven't counted it.
My brother Christian had it.
There's a lot of characters that you play
14,
into.
I think,
14 different zombies in, or not including, does that include
Characters,
Sledge?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
characters.
Which is incredible. So people say they don't realise that. With Dawn of the Dead, obviously you had that period of time where George said, you know, think of things to start killing people. So what was the preparation? What was George's instructions when you got the gig for Day of the Dead? He'd do the same thing, ring you up, start thinking of ways to kill him.
First of all, we talked about the original script, which was about as thick as a telephone book.
Much different.
It was Raiders of the Lost Ark with zombies, but they kept cutting his budget down and down and down. So we had less to do, but we were planning, explosions using plexiglass between people, to protect them. There were so many effects in the original screenplay. So what you saw is the reduced version. But wait, what was your question? Did you forget your question too? I forgot your question too. What was his question?
The preparation of Day of the Dead. So George rung you and said about, or telegrammed you in Dawn of the Dead saying, start thinking of ways to kill people.
Exactly.
When did you find out about the gig for Day of the Dead? And how did he
It
prep
was
you for
years
it?
from Dawn of the Dead to the Day,
Yeah.
years, and so you can see it in the special effects. Dawn, we were still making it up, and by the time Day of the Dead came around, there was a lot more specific and sophisticated.
One of the big differences was
The blood.
in Dawn of the Dead, the zombies were simply gray. They may have looked blue, they may have looked green, but they were gray. It's the lighting that made them, that photographed either blue or gray, but blue or green, but they were gray. So in Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, they were gray because we wanted you to see the difference, or know the difference, between normal people and zombies. In Day of the Dead, we did a lot more research with forensic pathology people.
Horrible.
So, and in fact, when all the arms came through the wall to grab Laurie Cardille, they were all different, because it depends on your ethnic group. Or, if you die in the attic in the heat, you're going to look a lot different than if you died in the basement, where it's moist, So we really were making all the zombies look different. So when the arms came through, John Harrison, who was the assistant director, was complaining that they all looked different. They weren't all gray like Dawn of the Dead. I said, well, these are going to be the most realistic zombies you're going to see. And so that's what we aimed for, okay? And the script had, as compared to Dawn, the script was kind of specific about the kills, except for the ones that we invented, like him getting torn apart. Well, no, he was torn apart in Dawn. His head coming off. Joe Pilato being torn in half. And by the way, there was no rubber chicken inside Joe Pilato when he tears them apart. You held up a bunch of shit, and it looked like a rubber chicken.
Somebody said it looks like a chicken.
Somebody is always asking me if there was a rubber chicken in the mess that came out of you.
It did look bloody good, I've got to say. It
did, yeah.
The person I was with was really sick, so they were like, don't ever take
Oh,
me
you
to
should have
that
been
bit.
there, because, I don't know if you know the story, we had a 5-gallon drum of pig intestines. Now, we went to Florida for a few weeks to shoot the elevator sequence with the zombies, and we were there for 3 weeks. Back in Pittsburgh, somebody unplugged the refrigerator.
You know Joe blamed you for that. He said, Savini during the fucking blame.
No, I did not. Somebody unplugged the refrigerator, so those pig intestines were rotting for 3 weeks. Now, Greg Nicotero was gut boy. He was in charge of the intestines. So, Greg, go bring us the pig intestines. And he came in, he was sick. You know, he had wax up his nose and
I wouldn't go near it.
English leather on his mustache, you know, because the stench was just incredible. And poor Joe, we couldn't protect him because you would see up his nose. You would, you know, we were wearing gas masks.
And he was stuck, so like a magic trick, like my death, Joe was stuck under the fake floor. He
For
couldn't
hours,
move.
smelling that for hours.
And they had a big fan. We were in a hallway. Remember, they put a big fan up, and every time we weren't shooting, they turned the fan on and tried to blow fresh
I don't
air.
remember the fan, yeah.
So,
It did
But
look
no,
an
the stench was
incredible
unbelievable.
effect.
The stench
It
was
did look an
incredible.
incredible effect. Howard, you get a lot of scenes with Richard Liberty, Dr. Frankenstein, and I think you did a great job with him. But you've talked a couple of times with us regarding a couple of scenes. One was about the tape recorder, and the other one was about when he shot, and you weren't quite, between you and George, you couldn't quite get what you were looking for, or George wasn't getting what he wanted. And between the two of you, you sort of you got the scenes that you got, but can you talk about the stages, especially with Richard Liberty, with his, how he was?
Well,
Was that your Walkman?
it was my idea to have I used to run, well, I didn't really run, I sort of jogged in a very half-assed way to a Walkman, and I was coming in one day with a Walkman on, and I had the thought, what would Bob make of music? And I suggested that to George, and he said he would figure out a way to
So the
work it
Walkman in the movie, that's not your Walkman? Your
Oh, it's not, no, it's it's like a tape recorder, I think, it's not but so he came up with the scene where the doctor is trying to teach me how to
Play the music.
press the button. Richard Liberty was a guy with just very fast energy. You know how different people have sort of different idle speeds? Well, Richard had a very, very fast idle. And so the first time we were rehearsing the scene, and the moment came for him to demonstrate to me with his finger, he just went, boom, and it was, I'm a zombie, I can't. And there's a weird, I think most people don't know about this, but there is a kind of protocol amongst all actors, professional actors at any rate. No actor directs another actor. A lot of actors will get very, very upset if another actor suggests to them how they do their performance. So it was inappropriate of me to suggest to Richard that I'm a zombie and I'm learning, but I'm a very slow learner, and if you move your hand that fast, I just won't get it. However, what we are allowed to do is react in just honestly. Although I couldn't say, Richard, move your hand slower, I could just look at him stupidly like I had no idea what he was doing. And since we were rehearsing, we weren't burning up film. But that's what I did, and he did it a couple of times, and he wasn't catching on, but George realized what it was, and so George suggested, I think you need to move your hand more slowly. And he did, but he still moved it too fast, and I just stood there looking at him like I had no idea what he was doing. And about 3 or 4 times we finally got to the point where he went slow enough that I could follow him. So that was how that worked.
And just quickly before I throw it out to the crowd, because Tony's going to do that, the second one was about Richard Liberty when he's been shot, when Rhodes has killed him.
Oh yeah, that was
That's me.
You get thrown back, don't you?
I get shot.
That's the stuff. I mean, the amount of stunts you did in that film. You get the golf cart thrown over you, and
Yep.
not thrown, but you get
Hit by the
collide.
golf
That's
cart.
right. But that scene where you come in front of him and realise it's him, and you're showing him the chain. You said that there was not quite what George. The first scene you did with it wasn't quite what George wanted.
The script said something kind of generic, that Bub looks and he sees the doctor has been shot and reacts emotionally, or I don't remember what the script said, but it didn't say specifically, it just said that Bub reacts. And I tried all kinds of different things. I don't know, I did different things, and as soon as they were coming out of my face, they just tasted fake. It was wrong, it was bad acting, and I tried one thing and another, and I don't know, it seemed to me we did like 5 or 6 takes, and it just wasn't working. And it was kind of desperate making, because we didn't have the time to do 50 takes like various auteur directors do. And I didn't know what to do, and on the one take, the chain bumped into my arm, and just instinctively I grabbed it, and as soon as I started swinging the chain, that was sort of the bridge to an honest emotional response. But it was weird that nobody thought of that. I didn't think of that. It was just an accident. And that's not an unusual thing in the arts, certainly in music. Wrong notes can open the way to a whole other universe if you're sensitive to following the opportunity that a supposed mistake will provide. Well, the chain was the mistake for me that made that scene work.
But you also have to know that we shot in a mine. We didn't see the sun for 3 months. We would go in at 6 in the morning, come out at 8 at night when it was dark. We never saw the sun. And the mine, when you're down there, it's a steady temperature of 55 degrees. But we all had mine fever after a while. If you blew your nose, it came out black. But the mine fever was like, we had golf carts down there. And I'm in a golf cart and I see Taso. Let's go run over Taso. So I'm taking him, just go run over him.
You don't like him.
No, we're best friends. But there's footprints on the ceiling somewhere in that mine from Taso, trying to get away from the golf cart and walking on the ceiling, In the hotel, the lobby, there was a jacuzzi. And he went down to well, it wasn't water pumping into the jacuzzi, it was air. Just air pumping the bubbles in. So we would sit in the hot tub and wait for somebody else, some guest to come into the jacuzzi. And I'd say to him, how long can you hold your breath?
Oh, like minutes.
He'd say, 10, 15 minutes. You can't hold your breath. And he would go down there and breathe off that thing. And the people were getting so uncomfortable, they thought he was dead and drowning. He was simply breathing off the jacuzzi intake. So that's the mine fever that we had. We just went nuts, a little nuts down there.
I remember the day the two of you spontaneously broke into like a saber fight. In the makeup room was probably twice as big as this, and there were thousands of hundreds of zombie corpses or parts of dead zombies everywhere. But the two of them, I don't know why there were sabers on the set, but they just broke into, it was worthy of Captain Blood. I mean, they were jumping off of tables and rolling and knocking things. It was crazy, and it was a total improvisation.
We've been fencing forever. We're very good fencers. Saber, foil, we used to go out to a park and fence. One day I drove my motorcycle and he met me in his Pinto, and we're fencing in the park. He said, can I take your motorcycle for a ride? Yeah, go ahead. And he's not coming back, and he's not coming back. A hitchhiker came back and came by, a jogger came by. He said, hey, your friend is lying. Yeah, how long have you known Taso? I'm sure he said, no. So I went up there, my motorcycle was in a tree, and he had a broken leg. Okay? He had a broken leg. I had to pick him up and put him in the Pinto. And he didn't want me to take him to the hospital. He wanted me to take him to his apartment where he would lie at the bottom of the steps and sue the landlord.
The world of Taso, please.
That's our landlord was a dick.
So I said, no, I took him to the hospital. He had a big hole in his leg, and he had a full cast on his leg. And, he's an athlete. We're all athletes, and he had that cast on his leg for what, 6 months?
Yeah, it was a while.
So I used to keep xylocaine, in a hypodermic needle in my makeup kit, because I had a back problem. So one day he calls me, he said the cast came off, and he couldn't bend his leg. He said, Tom, I'm coming over. Give me a shot of xylocaine in my knee, and we're gonna bend my leg down so it can finally bend, okay? So he comes over, and I remember a nurse squeezing the skin before she would give you a shot, So I took his knee and I squeezed the skin and shot myself in the thumb. So that was the end of that.
Wasteful xylocaine.
Oh my God. Have we got, Tony, can we, right guys, Tom said to me, questions from the crowd, so he wants some questions. So Tony's going to run around. We've got one at the back. Tony's going to have to do a bit of a jog all the way to the back there.
Or they can come up.
Or you can come up, yeah, so.
Just finally getting the respect it deserved.
I have no idea.
Maybe it's the start of this room because it's full.
Yeah, I don't know. I never felt that way. I thought it was, fantastic.
Steve, you got a question?
Yeah, right here. That's a tough question to answer. You have to really watch the culture and the society. I didn't care about that shit.
This is not so much a question, Taso. Last year I was looking to spend time with you and Greg, with my daughter, chatting at the bar. And I wonder if you'd like to reenact the story that you told us about you and Greg. You're laughing already. You and Greg driving around at night, maybe getting caught by the police. Or should I say stop?
So that is from Creepshow 2. Creepshow 2, we were in Prescott, Arizona, up in the mountains. Prescott is a very nice little town up in the mountains of Arizona, and each department had a car. I don't know why. I had a stunt car. A car. I can't remember what it was, but it was fast. And so Greg and I were drunk and high, and we were drinking and smoking in the car while I was flying around the back streets of Prescott, Arizona at night. We weren't shooting, and I pulled over. By the cops. And Greg had his video camera, and that's what it was. I asked him if he still has it. He said he was going to look. He had his video camera, and he had it on his lap, and he turned it on, and he shot me having a thing with the cop out the window, and I said, sorry, we're with the movie. Here, Scott says Creepshow, stunt department on the, and I was just looking for, I'm the stunt coordinator, I was looking for, we have a chase scene coming up, and the cop said, I'll tell you exactly where to go. You go around. He gave me specific directions to some place to go. And I just looked at Greg. Greg, had a completely straight face. Because obviously the car stunk of smoke, and we had alcohol. It wasn't just beer. We had booze with us. We got off the hook because we were obviously at Hollywood film shooting and. I felt so bad about that.
And remember the station wagon they gave us for Day of the Dead? We called it the Death Mobile because it was falling apart. Big station wagon. And in the effects workshop, I would set up explosions with a button near where I was stationed. Okay, so I would put an explosion by the door that you came in to the effects shop, and I mean like a pot with gunpowder, flash powder, magnesium. We're talking about a huge, harmless, huge explosion. So the producer walked in one day and we're chatting about stuff. On his way out, I pressed the button and blew him up in the doorway. And he went into a standing fetal position and just scared the fuck out of him, okay? So now we're going back to the hotel one night in the Deathmobile, and we're heading out of the parking lot, and we should have known something because the whole crew, the cast were all outside watching us leave, and the car blew up. Smoke just billowed from under the dashboard. John Bullock was crawling out the window, screaming, "We're gonna die! We're gonna die!" So they paid us back for our practical jokes.
Any other questions out there at all?
In Simon Pegg's memoir, there's a picture of him from Land of the Dead, because he did a cameo, and he says, my prosthetic is taken from the same mould that was used on Howard Sherman's Bub, my all-time favourite zombie in Romero's Day of the Dead. I mean, I know that you reused things, but this is 20 years after Day of the Dead. Is that the first you've heard?
Yeah, that's the first I've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible.
Show you the picture.
Okay. So we had Bub's appliances on. Oh yeah, that's Bub.
That's Simon Pegg's book, yeah.
But maybe Greg resculpted it or something. There was a time when I was doing the effects on Land of the Dead, but Universal Studios said, Tom doesn't have enough collateral in case we want to sue him. So they hired Greg, who had an effect shop, K&B Effects, you know. So that's what I've heard, because I was originally going to do, there were going to be like 8 special zombies in Land of the Dead, you know, some CGI, you know, because you know the head stays intact, the zombie's still going to be walking around. So we designed stuff where half the body would be gone. It never happened in the film. But wait, what's the point? Simon Pegg.
Reusing the old
Reusing
effects.
Using old effects.
Probably, yeah. I mean, because we had
The
bags.
molds, the old molds were plaster. You still have them on
Yeah,
the
I
shelf
still have
somewhere.
Bub's mold, you know. But we had bags of appliances that we used over and over. You know, we had small, medium, and large. Like if you walked in, you'd be a medium and throw a medium on you, get some medium teeth, you know, because we had to make hundreds of zombies quickly, you know, so.
I remember sitting down with Gary Clark and his wife when I went to visit them in just north of New York. And Gary was chatting to me, he said, Savini on set. He said, well, we went back to was it a Holiday Inn you stayed in?
Yeah.
He just said, fucking Savini. He said, and then his wife burped and she said, he's a naughty boy. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, well, there'll be one girl running around one corridor and another girl running down the other corridor, and they both want to fight with each other. Apparently they were in Tom, to be young again, Tom. But obviously the antics that did get on set, you know, obviously you guys were playing practical jokes on each other all the time, and I'm sure I heard one story that was nearly fatal about, was it an extinguisher or something, or something's going on?
Oh, no,
That was-
they did it to me.
Yeah.
You know,
We walked in, and Everett was behind the door.
because we handcuffed Everett to the barber chair and used white hairspray and painted him completely white. Greg would leave to go to the bathroom. I would sneak over with a Polaroid camera and shoot him taking a dump into the... I mean, we did tons of stuff like that.
I'm sure Greg told a story about getting one on you. Was it something
But
to do with
that's
the
the-
That's the one.
that's the
But
fire
what about the one with the car started to fill up with smoke, or that was
That was it.
That's the
That's
one.
what I
That's
just
the one. That's the one.
But, so we did stuff like that all the time. Poor Everett, you know. So
Oh, yeah, he felt
to
bad.
get me back, I was coming into the effects room from somewhere, and Everett he had a fire extinguisher. It was one of those fire extinguishers that shoots out a chemical.
Powder.
You know, yeah. And it got me right in the mouth and the eyes, and I had to go to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
It scratched the lenses of my eye. So I had to wear an eye patch. Yeah. Oh yeah, I breathed in all the fucking.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, they were all wearing eye patches when I came back from the hospital.
When was the last time you saw this film? A lot of people say, well,
saw
you make
it
a
when-
film and you don't watch it. And
We watched it at my school recently. We have movie night at my school, and we watched Day of the Dead. And I sit there and I answer questions while we're watching it, you know.
Was there ever a chance that you could have played any of the characters in Day?
No, I wanted to play
You've got
Rhodes.
Torres.
I wanted to play Rhodes, yeah. George wouldn't let me. He didn't think I could do both, do the effects and, handle the character.
So you talked to George about it, sat down and had a
I
chat.
want to play Rhodes, yeah.
And he just said he didn't think you could do both.
Couldn't do, we could have, I could have, I thought Joe was wonderful though, But he was the stunt coordinator, on the day. The end, did you ever do the stunt going up the silo?
No, yep. George
Wasn't it-
wanted it, and I don't know if it got cut or we ran out of time or what,
Did you
as they
shoot it?
escaped. So we're in the mine, and somewhere down the mine, there was a silo that went like 50, 70 feet up to the surface, and it had a ladder. And
Still there.
George wanted the heroes to escape up the ladder and up the silo.
And you were a
Well, he
zombie
wanted a
before?
zombie that was already up there. So halfway up, they get confronted with a zombie and have to fight it, and it falls.
Was that me? Because you had me dressed in stunt pads one day to do a stunt, and then it got canceled. Was that the side
Could
of
have
it?
been.
Oh, okay.
I went up and tested. I did a test and showed it to George, and he was happy about it. But first I went, because I wasn't sure. I had a feeling about it, and I went to a professor at Carnegie Mellon, where I lived, and went to the engineering department. And this guy had the primitive computer that they had used because he was a math genius. This guy, he's literally a genius. He worked with the government doing stuff. And he said, oh, no. I said, how high can I go? He showed me, and he drew it on his computer, and he said, had me as a little dot. And he said, once you leave here, you're going to ricochet down the tube. You're going to hit those. And I said, oh, well, that's not going to be good. And so he designed the cable for the play K2, the mountain climbing thing. And at one point, the character falls off the mountain, and he designed this thing on stage where the cable goes up on these pulleys, and on backstage is a series of tires. So the farther the guy would fall, it would pick up another tire, and eventually it would slow him down. A decelerator, one of the first accelerators.
Right.
And he said you could do that, but that means you have to, then you can fall right from the center of the tube, and you'll just go straight down. He said otherwise, you can go up 30 feet and not hit the other side.
Well,
And
listen,
that's what I did.
I directed a Dracula play, and he played Dracula. He's one of my favorite Draculas. He was a beast. He was an animal. I've seen Langella. I've seen all the Draculas. He's one of my favorite Draculas. Anyway, during the curtain call, he suggested, why don't I fly in? Why don't I come in from the ceiling with my cape flowing? I said, well, let me see it. And he went, boom! No, we're not doing that. Sorry. He came down really hard.
Well, there was someone just holding me. You have to have the mechanical decelerate.
It wasn't a decelerator.
No.
It was somebody with a rope.
I came
Okay.
crashing down.
Yeah, he would have killed himself during the curtain call.
You could listen, I mean, you could listen to this all day long, couldn't you? Listen, forget the rest of the convention, let's just stay up here. My final question before I let the guys go back to their tables, Howard, the opening scene that we see for you, the first time we actually see you is a jump scene with Laurie. And then you kind of say something, or say, and you say, but you said you say something. Do you remember the conversation?
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing because I would have impulses to speak, and I knew that I can't. I mean, other than when the doctor is coaching me to repeat "Hello, Aunt Alicia," it would not be appropriate to speak. But I kept, as an actor, I had the impulse when I realized I scared this pretty lady to apologize. And my lips do something, I don't know. I mean, it happened in numerous scenes throughout the.
Were you trying to say sorry?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was that.
Yeah.
But you would have had that impulse.
Yeah, I've had the impulse.
Somewhere that impulse would have been there.
And the impulse would land in my mouth, and I would quell it before it could actually form a word, but you'd see something starting. And that was true in several scenes where I would, like the scene we were talking about earlier when I discovered that the doctor had been shot. And the moment I see him, I lift up the chain, and I have the impulse to say, "Look what I did," because I escaped. I, figured out how to pull out not figured out, but I accidentally, while I was licking the blood off, the cotter pin came out, and I got away. And but you can see sort of, the impulse to say, "Look what I did."
Well, you were the first zombie that was starting to learn stuff and get smart,
Yeah.
That
I
was been-
saw in the original script, I had a peek in it, there were color-coded zombies with red dot, blue dot, and yellow dot, and they all did a different trick. Do you remember that?
Oh, really?
Remember that?
That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a whole...
I think that would have been a hell of a film if they'd actually given him the budget and said, just do it, just go and do it. What a film that might have been. But at the end of the day, we've got pretty much a damn good film anyway. I mean, I love it. I think it's...
All the conventions I do, most of the people say that's their favorite,
Yeah.
Day of the Dead.
I agree.
Why? And no one can say why. I don't know why. Do you know why? Is it your favorite?
No.
Anybody here like Day of the Dead?
Yeah, no.
I think it's great. Anyway, guys, please put your hands together for Mr. Tom Savini.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.